Hail, Flame here, and welcome to the FlameHisWorld commentary of Professor Layton and the Curious Village. This is the first game in the Layton series, and it's the first of quite a few at this point. There's been the initial series on the DS, there has been a prequel trilogy, and now there's kind of a sequel thing with a new lead character that's started up on the 3DS and the Switch now. But I will say this is the only game that I have played personally, and it's a game that I played very recently that's grabbed my attention right away, and I really want to cover it. There's a lot I want to talk about and a lot that I like, so let's get started.
The things we saw that day in the village became a secret we would have to keep from everyone for the rest of our lives. Because, you see... Huh? I don't understand, Professor. Why are we going to help solve an inheritance dispute?
Luke, my boy, do you really think I would take on such an ordinary request as that? Oh no, this is an altogether unique and exciting situation, and it has piqued my intellectual curiosity. But I suppose it would be best to explain the case before we arrive at our destination. 2 months ago, Baron Augustus Reinhold passed away. Shortly after his death, his will was disclosed. The contents of it were fascinating, to say the least. The Reinhold family treasure, the golden apple, is hidden somewhere within this village. To whomever successfully locates this treasure, I offer the whole of my estate. Naturally, those who attended the reading of the will immediately set out in search of the golden apple. But in the end, everybody came back empty-handed. It turns out that no one had even heard of such a treasure existing, until its mention in the will.
Wow, that's some puzzle, all right.
Quite. Augustus Reinhold staked his entire fortune just to create one more puzzle before his death. What a perplexing individual. I wish I could have met him while he was still alive.
It certainly sounds like you two would have got along, Professor. By the way, just what is this golden apple anyhow?
Some speculate it's a rare antique, while others say it could be a gem, yet its identity remains elusive. But Luke, I can't shake the feeling that this matter is linked to some larger mystery. Something huge.
Aha! Is that your famous intuition at work again, Professor?
Well, our first step is getting to town.
This is all so exciting. I hope Sir Mystere is ready for the famous archaeologist and puzzle-solving detective, Herschel Layton.
Oh, Luke, you know as well as I do that I am no detective. Augustus Reinhold's wife, Lady Dahlia, has asked me to investigate the situation. It seems she came across my name by chance when reading an article about me in the papers.
And you immediately decided to take her up on her request?
Oh, well, Luke, a true gentleman never refuses the request of a beautiful lady.
If you say so, Professor.
We should be nearing the town by now. Look at the map in the envelope and help me with directions.
Right you are, Professor. What in the... what's this?
Lady Dahlia seems to have given us a test. We'll need to decipher this map in order to find the village. She wants to see if we're capable of cracking the mystery surrounding the Reinhold fortune. Care to give it a go, Luke?
I'll do my best. A puzzle like this should be no problem for the apprentice of the great Professor Layton.
Very well then, Luke. I'll leave this one to you. Think of it as a warm-up for things to come.
So what we've got here is the first puzzle in this game. The first puzzle of many. There are a lot of puzzles throughout Professor Layton. That's the main drive of the gameplay. So the first one here, pretty basic. You've just got to find the village that we're looking for. And we've got the stipulation that it's on a road that leads to no other village. So we're looking for the one on a dead end that doesn't really link to anywhere else. And that's that one right there. And this is a very basic puzzle.
Well, here's my
I will say, not all the puzzles are like that. There will be some very difficult ones, but we'll see those over the course of time.
There we go. Now we should be able to make our way to the village.
Right you are. We should see it on the horizon any moment now.
Huh? Professor? Do you mean to say you've already worked out the village's location?
I'm afraid I couldn't help myself. A basic puzzle like that is easy enough to solve with a glance. Anyhow, you'd best gather your things, Luke. We've arrived.
So what we saw just then in the cutscene is just setting the scene for what's going to be going on. We've been looking for the titular Curious Village here, which I will say flat out, the setting of this game is fantastic. It's got a very kind of quaint feel to it. It's not too overbearing. You know, there's a lot of stereotypes going on here, I guess, sort of thing. Like, this is very much a British-inspired game. It's developed in Japan, and a lot of the voice acting is done by Americans, but in spite of that, it's a very British-inspired game, and I do appreciate that about it. But also what we saw is the main gameplay of the Professor Layton series revolves around puzzles, and I will say that is the main reason why I didn't give this game a proper shot when it first came out, because I heard a lot about this game. I saw it getting a lot of positive reviews, I saw a lot of people talking about it. It was one of the big hitters in the early days of the DS. And I was a bit put off because I'm not really a puzzle game kind of person when it comes to brain teaser kind of stuff, at least. Like, I love my Tetris, I like my Pokemon Puzzle Challenge and stuff, but when it comes to brain teasers, I'm usually a bit lost. But what ended up selling me on this game when I played it for the first time properly recently is more so the story and the setting and just the world of Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Like, the puzzle gameplay, I will admit, some of the puzzles I do enjoy it a lot more than I expected I would, because there's some things that like really make you think, and some of them that sort of trick you a little bit and you have to think outside the box, and I do appreciate that. But by the same token, I'm also not the biggest fan of that genre of game, so I'm mostly here for the story. But here is our second puzzle, and this one is very much a basic, like, look at the pictures and piece things together, because in the prologue it's still early days, they're not really testing us too much, so we've just got to pick out the one that we need to put into the crank. So, you know, we can actually get into the village itself, because that'd be kind of nice. We don't want to be sat in the Layton Mobile outside the village for the whole game.
That should do it. Another puzzle solved.
And in the interest of transparency, I will say, for the sake of this recording, I was using a guide just to get everything down smoothly, so we don't have too many like screens of me just hovering over trying to pick an option. My recording process for this was I played through a chapter just on my own, just to try and figure things out. The ones that I could figure out, I felt really good about myself for. The ones I couldn't figure out, I sort of begrudgingly went to the guide and felt a bit stupid because I'm not smart enough to play the game. But yeah, when it came to recording footage, I did just glance over a guide on my other screen. And that's the first cutscene where I haven't had characters talking. So I will say one thing that I also really like about this game in terms of presentation is this art style is absolutely beautiful. Like, both in these visual novel kind of dialogue screens and in the animated cutscenes, it's got a very... I don't know whether it's a kind of retro-y kind of British animation thing going on, but it's a very simplistic art style, and it's appealing to look at. And for someone like me who is very fussy about the way things look, I'm quite a hard person to sell to, so if you impress me, you're doing well. Like, I mostly stick to Japanese anime art styles, which I guess there's a little bit of influence from here, but it is mostly just, you know, this quaint, relaxed, peaceful looking art style. So what Stashen is introducing us to here, or Stashen Scarfen, which is his full name, he is teaching us about hint coins, a mechanic in the game that you can collect these by just tapping different spots in the overworld, and when you've got enough, you can kind of keep them as a supply to help you with the puzzles, because all the puzzles, they have a set number of hints. I believe it's 3 hints for every puzzle, actually, that you can just like spend a hint coin on and get a clue to all the puzzle, and usually it goes in a ranking system. So the first clue is just a basic, like, pushing you in the right direction. The second clue is telling you a bit more, like maybe pointing out an element of the puzzle that you might not have clocked onto. And then the third one is it might as well just tell you the answer. If you are struggling, the game does have a mechanic to help you along, but that is dependent on finding hint coins. Naturally, given I'm using a guide for the recording, I'm not going to be using them, but they're still very useful to have. So if you see something a little bit suspicious on the overworld, just tap on it and you might find a hint coin there. So in terms of this game's setting of Saint Mystere, the main character trait among all the different characters that you'll meet here is they seem to have a fascination with sharing puzzles. They will want you to help them out with puzzles that they've found, or they'll just want to present you with a puzzle to check that you know what you're on about. And some of them will be quite familiar style puzzles, some of them will be a bit more complex. Like this one here, the third puzzle, puzzle 3, Strange Hats. This is a bit of an optical illusion. You've got to pick the hat that the rim is the same length as the hat is high. And it's not the one you'll immediately think it is. You might want to do a bit of the measuring it on a bit of paper and turning it and holding it up to your DS screen tactic there. Because honestly, when I first saw this, I was thinking it was going to be C or D. Like, it looks a bit on the longer side, but no, when you actually look at it and you actually calculate it, it's the first one. So that's the kind of things that you'll want to keep your eye out for throughout this game. You want to maybe not just go with the first answer that comes to your head. You might want to just think about what it could be. You want to think about what little tricks they might have put on. And there's no shame in using hints. I will say that flat out, because there's a lot of these puzzles that you will need a nudge in the right direction. They really do test you with some of them. It's not bullshit hard at any point, because there's the hint system, but you know, the hint system is very much there for a reason. And yes, this is the basic tutorial thing. We'll be getting more into the actual story and gameplay in the next part when we start the first chapter. But for now, we've got to solve the puzzle of how to save the game. And yes, the puzzles you do kind of collect them as you go along. So if you enjoyed the puzzle, if you want to have another shot at it, or maybe you just want to show someone else the puzzle and test your friend out, you can just go back into the menu and reload the puzzle, which, you know, a lot of these puzzles are the sort of thing that once you know it, you know it. But like I say, it's just if you want to revisit a puzzle for any reason, it's there and it's neat. But we've got to make our way towards the Reinhold Manor. So I'll see you next time for Chapter 1. Bye bye for now.